Welcome to the Marathon Investigation Podcast, where we discuss and debate the latest news regarding course cutters, bandits, and bib mules.
Welcome to the Marathon Investigation Podcast. This is Derek Murphy. I'm here with Scott Coomer.
Hey, everybody.
All right, tonight I am very excited to have a legend in the running world, the mayor of running, Bart Yasso. Bart was the chief running officer for, I believe, over 30 years at.
Over 30.
Over 30, Bart. Yes, had 40 years. It wasn't quite that long, but over 30 years at Runner's World. And Bart, I owe a lot to Bart. The very first article I posted that really kind of went viral, Bart retweeted it, and I saw all kinds of people commenting and on my site. I'm like, what's happening? Hey, Bart retweeted me. How cool is that? And he's following me. I was all excited. That was the blogger. That was the Gia, the runner who she gave her bib away one year because she couldn't run it. Her friend requalified her at Boston. Then she used her friend's time to run Boston the following year, and she got banned. She got banned for that. And I wasn't involved in any of that investigation up front, but I knew about it. So, Bart retweeted that, and then I think it was about a week later the article came out on my investigation into the Boston Marathon that came out in Runner's World. So I owe a lot to Runner's World. I owe a lot to Bart for kind of really getting it going and kind of legitimizing me for better or for worse. And so Bart, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming on. It's an honor.
Hey, thank you, Derek. First off, we owe a lot to you. And when I say we, I'm talking about the running community and the sport of running owe a lot to you. I'm a small cog in the big wheel that you're turning, trying to keep our sport as honest as we can be. So the credit goes to you, not me.
No, I appreciate it, but again, without people like you kind of retweeting, getting it out there, I'd be writing to myself. So it definitely helps, to have your endorsement behind it. So
sure,
thank you again.
No problem.
So we'll start on kind of a little bit of your background, then we'll get into a little bit of the cheating, banditing discussion that's been popping up lately, and kind of go from there. So really, I'm curious, Bart. How did you, as far as did you run have you been a runner all your life? Did you pick it up later? How did you kind of get into this?
I say I picked it up later being 21 years of age, but I needed a lifestyle change. I didn't want to be a beer drinker, pot smoker my whole life, so I really said, okay, I got to get serious here, and I wanted to become healthy, so I gravitated to running not to be a runner as in doing races. I just wanted to get healthy and improve my health. And then, of course, I did that first race 40 plus years ago, and then I've been hooked ever since. So I've been at the sport 40 plus years, but I did spend 31 years at Runner's World magazine.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, and that's longer than I've been anywhere in life. And as far as Runner's World, how did you become the chief running officer at Runner's World? I think that's the story.
So I didn't start out as the chief running officer. I got hired at Runner's World. We're going back to 1987. And originally I was the guy that went around I was like the conduit between the magazine and being out at races, being that connector to connect our readers and our products with all the runners at events. That's how I started out. And just kind of worked my way up the ladder over all the years. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I got the title chief running officer, and the big promotion after I was inducted in the Hall of Champions, the Running USA Hall of Champions. So it's kind of cool. And then I love that title, and I love my job all the time at Runner's World. But what I did in the last, say, 10 years, 8 years at my job, I really loved, because I felt I had a long leash that I could do what I thought was really good for not only Runner's World and the company that owned Runner's World Rodale, but also what I could do for the sport of running.
I have a question. As a guy that obviously is involved in the marathoning and the running world for such a long period of time. You were obviously around before the marathon boom and before all of the the charity runners and marathoning became more of a lifestyle than a competition. Do you remember, was there ever issues with cheating like there is today back then, or because everybody was kind of a serious runner, was that less of a concern?
Yeah, Scott, I doing races late 70s, early 80s, doing the Boston Marathon back in the early 80s. And you're right, there was only fast runners back then, way before charity runners existed and things like that. But I don't ever remember hearing of someone cheat other than Rosie Ruiz. That was the only one I've ever heard of back in the old days. And everyone knew right away that Rosie Ruiz cheated. I mean, when you saw the press conference with Bill Rogers and Rosie Ruiz, when Bill Rogers was just politely asking her questions like, what were your splits and your weekly mileage, and she didn't know the talk. And Billy Rogers is like, okay, what's going on here? This is like simple running talk, and she didn't have the answers. And we knew right away there was something was awry with what was going on with Rosie. But I honestly don't remember anyone cheating. I think that came along later when I would say social media played a role in it, because now people can qualify for Boston and blast it everywhere, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and that stuff obviously didn't exist in the old days. So I don't remember it. I clearly, there were bandits in the old days. In fact, first year I did Boston in 1982, you could see a lot of bandits at the start of the race. But they were what I call respectful bandits. Everyone got out on the road that had a bib number on. The race started. And then, I mean, obviously I didn't witness it because I was out there running, but I was told that all those people we saw standing around at the start in running clothes jumped in, and you could see them later in the race, after finishing, coming back out onto Boylston or in the last mile of the race. You could see a lot of people finishing that didn't have bib numbers on. But they had a lot of respect for the people that qualified.
Yeah, no, I still get a lot of people who kind of use that as the excuse. Oh, well, they welcome bandits. Well, things change, especially, after the bombings, things change for safety. And so people still kind of use, hey, it was okay, for them. Why isn't it okay now?
I wouldn't use the word welcome, but they knew they were there and they knew how to deal with it. But I wouldn't say they said, hey, oh, yeah, you can't qualify. Just, you're welcome to run it. I just think they... there was a little bit of respect for people willing to run the distance, but the standards, as you guys know, were, 250 for men, 320 for women. So the standards were a lot tougher, and there were less people. And I think that people always wanted to do it.
And none of the age-graded qualifications either at that time.
Well, yeah, in the beginning, they didn't have all those age group qualification times like they do now.
Yeah, and obviously no different times for women because women couldn't run. So
yeah, it was 250 and then 320 or 310 for men over 40, and the 320 for women was women of, didn't matter if you were 18 or 99, you had to run 320, and then they added a 330 for women, and then they started doing all the age group stuff later. And of course, they eased the standards. So it's changed a lot, but it was pretty. You knew what you needed to get in the old days, and a lot of people couldn't do that. So to be a bandit was the only way they could run the race. There were no charity slots.
Yeah, with the charity slots, it's I even have people who complain about the charity slots, and it's to me they do such a great job for the community. I don't see how you can fault the BAA for giving up those charity slots, and but yeah, I have people complain about that as well. And
yep, I hear the same thing, but those are people that have never put on a race and never put on a race of this magnitude, and have never dealt with cities that you close down their streets. Because people who have done that know why there's charity slots. Like, you really need to do things for cities. use the Boston Marathon for an example. You go through 8 municipalities along the way. And if one of those municipalities said, no, we don't want this race going through our town, they would have to alter the Boston Marathon course, which would not be good.
Yeah, and I think that's the same reason why, hey, why don't you guys just increase the number of entries so everybody gets in? And that's one of the reasons as well, because the municipalities don't want more people running to the streets.
Yeah, the Boston Marathon overwhelms all 8 municipalities already, and they just can't pick forever. So I like what they do already, and it makes sense that they do a lot of local charities.
But yeah, and I was going to kind of back a little bit to your running history and kind of tying with Scott. You've done, you didn't just do marathons and half marathons. You've done a lot of 50Ks. You're a Badwater finisher back in 1989, and I believe you've done Comrades. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I've done a fair amount of ultras and trails and 50K, all kinds of races all over the world. Cycled across the U.S. I've done a lot of different things, but mostly, my favorite stuff obviously has been the running stuff.
No, that's super cool. And I believe you did triathlons, and so you kind of did it all, in your younger years at least. And
sure.
In your 30 years as chief running officer, you've probably been to, I don't know how many marathons and finishes you've seen.
Way too many, I can tell you that. Yeah, I did a lot of traveling in my 30 years at Runner's World. Like 40 a year.
Can I just ask, what was the race to end all races? What was the greatest race from your running career that you participated in?
That I participated in?
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I always tell people my all-time running experience was running Comrades. Not because I ran well, just because I was able to finish it. And I was not, health-wise, I was really struggling. I was not in good shape, and I was not physically healthy enough to, I shouldn't have been out there, but I really wanted to run that race. And I felt like my health was declining so rapidly. I felt like if I didn't do it 2010 when I did it, I would never physically have the opportunity to do it. So I did do it.
I'm going back again this year to do it for the third time. And someday I got to have you on my podcast. We got to go one-on-one and talk about, because Americans don't understand Comrades as much as they should. And I've actually had on my show and actually in my house, 2 of the 3 Americans that have won the Comrades have stayed with me. So I definitely want to someday get a good interview of you about Comrades and experiences there.
So the 3 Americans, Salazar, Camille, and Ann Tracy?
Yeah, I've had Camille and Ann both staying at my place and interviewed them this year.
So you just need Salazar to make it to round off the 3rd U.S. winner?
If Alberto came and slept in my guest room, it would probably be the only bedroom in the world that has housed 3 Comrades champions.
That would be awesome. I got to send that message to Alberto.
All right.
Yeah, he's in Chicago. Scott'll put him up.
All right.
So that's.
I'm sure Alberto travels will get him to Chicago at some point.
So as far as like the marathon, so you've seen, my point was you've been to a lot of races and you've seen a lot of kind of the finishers, the finish lines. And that's what really kind of, I was kind of out of it for, kind of had like a 8-year gap from, when my daughter was born to when I kind of got back into wanting to run again. And that was kind of by the website and kind of being involved in the community a little bit. I felt like I should get out and run, and it's a lot of running and walking. So I'm well in the back of the pack when I picked it back up. But last year, I didn't go out this year, but last year I had the opportunity to go out to the California International Marathon. I work with Eli, help verify the results. They're an official partner. And being at the finish line, there's nothing really more motivating. I was there just shortly after the winners, and then we went to the finish, and just seeing the people, how hard they work, that everyone's collapsing, they're giving it their all. There's nothing more motivating than just standing there watching people finish, at a marathon.
It's a magical place.
So, like, what's your, and really, and same towards even, front of the pack or back of the pack, what's kind of you have a favorite story, or, somebody, struggling to finish, or somebody, really, kind of meeting you at the finish line type thing?
Man, I've seen it all. I just can't believe what people can accomplish that, have some pretty pretty tough obstacles. I could name 100 some stories. It's kind of hard to pinpoint one story, but there are so many people that defy the odds to go out there and complete these races. We always talk about the finish line, but I always say the starting line is where the dream starts. Crossing the finish line is where the dream comes true. But we got to get these people to the starting line, and some people defy odds to get there. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's people, and it's funny, when I did New York this year, and I was running across it, and to see the people that were that were passing me at some point, and and people, and I was in tears at the finish line, not for me, but there's some of the wounded warriors were wrapping up at the same time, and just to see what they did, knowing what they've not truly knowing what they've been through, but knowing how hard it must have been to get to there, and how awesome it was. It made me, it teared me up, made me emotional. After being on there, I finished in the dark. So it was definitely there. But yeah, it definitely motivates me. And then on the same way, it kind of to me validates. Okay, these people did all this. It kind of makes me more ticked off about the people who cut corners and who cheat to do that.
I agree, because the finish line is an honorable place, and it really doesn't matter time on the clock. It matters the commitment you made, and of course the commitment to run the race. And as you know, the race is you go from the start line to the finish line the way everyone else does. No shortcuts or skipping spots or whatever people are doing out there these days.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, they're pretty much everything. Between skipping spots, running marathons as a relay, handing off your paper to somebody else to finish it. I've seen that, and everything else. Is there kind of what's your line of demarcation, or is there one as far as okay, what's somebody's cheating? Like, say for example, you have somebody who's going to miss the cutoff, so they cut off a couple miles to to finish, versus somebody cheating to get into Boston, or cheating taking an age group, or winning. Is there someone that you look a little more sympathetically to, or is it all?
I don't look sympathetically to any of them. Cheating is cheating. Whether you cut 2 blocks off or 2 miles, or take drugs to be faster than someone else. It's flat out cheating, and that's just wrong. There's no way around it. There's a course. It's called the New York City Marathon or the Chicago Half Marathon, whatever it is. The course is set up, and that's what you have to run. And there's no other way around it.
Yeah.
How do you feel, when you see these cases of cheating? One of the things that me and Derek argue about is, someone gets, called out on social media for cheating, and then there's this huge pylon that's created in this negative kind of cloud around them, and I think a lot of it's just social media outrage and things like that. How do you feel when you see that happen, and what's your reaction been to that?
Well, when someone is caught blatantly and there's proof that they cheated, they should be called out. They should be disqualified from the race, obviously. And if people then want to then jump on, that's up to them. I like to keep. My personal way I deal with things is I like to promote the people that do well for the sport and do great things. But the event directors really need to disqualify these people. I don't know the general public. If they want to go on and denigrate these people, that's totally up to them. I don't know if it does any good. It may keep them out of the sport, that they really realize that people are paying attention and they shouldn't be doing this stuff. So, there could be a good side to it.
Do you ever recall there being like a moral or ethical discussion at Runner's World about, hey, do we want to run an article that, Joe Blow cheated in a marathon or not, or anything of that sort?
Well, we talked. I was in meetings when we talked about stories when we knew for sure someone cheated. But I think it was more what I would always say in these meetings is we really have to get something out there that we stop this. That do like more the 10 things a race needs to do so this doesn't happen, and the 10 things people should know what would happen if somebody cheats or runs with someone else's bib number, that kind of stuff. I believe, Derek, you refer to it as muling, when someone carries someone's bib number to a specific time.
I think it was funny because we talked to John Kane, and he was featured in Runner's World probably about 3 months before I was, and that term appeared in that article. So I think maybe Kit Fox came up with that term, because he's the one that kind of used that for me when I was kind of saying, hey, bib swapping. I kind of called it all the same thing, and he differentiated between the bib muling, which is you have somebody run with your bib, and then you use that time to qualify yourself, and so that's so that's the bib muling. The bib swapping is, hey, I can't run, here, take my bib, and so there's a little bit of a difference between, and again, with the bib swapping, some people, I try to educate. Some people probably go into it not really thinking about the repercussions, but what happens in the New York City Marathon last year, Catherine Switzer was knocked out of the her age group award because an older female gave her bib to a younger male who placed in that place.
Catherine told me that story. I know it's and some of it is innocent. They don't understand. They don't realize the ramifications of what they're doing. And that's why we need to get this out there, why you can't do that.
Yeah, and that's how I try to educate. And usually, again, in my articles, I'm not going to typically name the person that does it unless it gets to the point where, again, it becomes a bib muling and the time's getting used for Boston and there was this definite intent there. So that's kind of where I go. And I think it's kind of a good segue into, again, you're talking about doing the 10 things we can do to stop cheating and whatnot. Recently, Runner's World did an article that was, don't be an a-hole. Don't bandit.
Yeah.
But if you go ahead, if you do, don't be an a-hole. What are your thoughts on that? I'll leave it open to you.
Derek. That is the perfect example of what I would say a story could be: is the 10 reasons why you never bandit, why you never run with someone else's bib number. I don't understand that story. I just don't know why anyone would say, and that, people at Runner's World said, well, this stuff, we said not to do it, but we know people are going to do it, so here's the stuff they need to know. I just, I don't agree with that. I believe that you educate people what happens when you do this and why you don't do it. And the example you used about someone running with someone else's bib and beating Catherine Switzer, and it could have been a 20-year-old guy, and Catherine's competing in the 70-plus women's age group. I ran with my grandmother's bib, so what? My grandmother, she was injured. It's like, no, you cannot do this. But I know people, I've been a race director from 1980 till 2018. In that time frame, I at least put on one race per year. In many years, I put on as many as 5 or 6 races. I'm very familiar with the race director role. And, it's not easy sometimes when you have a small budget and you don't have a lot of ways to catch people if they are going to cheat. And, that's one of the tough positions in a race, especially the smaller races without the big budgets and big sponsors. They're doing what they can to survive. And Scott, what you mentioned earlier, I don't like when people gang up on the race director who may not have all the ways to try to, prove that someone cheated. Because then if a race says, okay, we got to put up video cameras and more chip mats, then the runners have to pay for that. Runners are going to pay for that out of entry fees. And then the runners say, why are you charging us so much? So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, me and Derek talked about this with a couple of cheating cases where, you look at the person, you look at the time, and you say, I know that they cheated. There's no way that they did that, but there's no smoking gun proof that you could use. And then it comes down to the race director saying, listen, I can't just go out and disqualify this person based on the fact that we all, come to this conclusion. There's got to be, some objective evidence. And then I feel for them because, like Catherine Switzer, saying, well, wait a second, this where's my award? And this person shouldn't have done it. And, there's a strange situation. And I agree with you 100% that, if I'm going to finish the Chicago Marathon, number 30,243, I don't really give a shit about busting all the cheaters in front of me, such that I want to pay $50 for there to be, some high-tech thing to make sure that, everybody's on the up and up.
Right. And small trail runs that, do these double loops that don't have a big budget and aren't going to put cameras out and would, let's use this tree out in the middle of nowhere to put a camera up there. I mean, it's hard to do sometimes. And you're doing all this extra work for maybe one or two people. And, I just think that these people that are out there are going to get caught eventually because, if you're going to run if you're going to cheat and run these fast times, someone in your hometown has to know about you. Like, you just don't pop out of the woodwork and, Joe Schmo, 60 years old, just popped a 3:15 marathon and, like, no one in the running club knows him in his hometown. Like, something's wrong. That just doesn't happen. Like, if you're going to run these fast age group times, you're going to be known in your running community. And so a lot of these people, they will find out that something isn't right, and they will get caught.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the tips I get are from friends or friends of friends who are like, hey, my friend qualified for Boston. I run with them. 10K, I beat them in the 10K, they're walking halfway through. So it's, so I get a lot of, anonymous tips from friends and, when someone's posting on Facebook about some accomplishment or they see their friend's results. So yeah, it's absolutely people, the people who do this usually don't do it and keep quiet about it. So that's, that's definitely way. And interesting you mentioned about the smaller races and kind of the race directors getting piled on. I think the perfect example of that was the Lehigh Valley Marathon.
Yes.
Of course, which you created, and the whole.
It's actually it was a different race that I created. It was actually a relay race that went from Allentown to Easton.
Okay.
And it was a relay, and then all these runners kept asking me, "Let us run solo," and I said, "Well, I really want to keep it as a relay." But then we did let them. I created the solo division. It just wasn't a relay, but I gave that race to the people who own it now, the VIA organization, probably, I'm going to say early 90s, because I was just traveling too much and I couldn't put on the race. So VIA took it over and then changed it into VIA Lehigh Valley Marathon.
Yeah, so like I said, that's a perfect example. The whole Mike Rossi, anybody listening to this probably knows the Mike Rossi story, so I won't rehash it because I'm tired of rehashing it. But that was kind of the case. There was, there were no intermediate timing mats at the course, and with
there
Mike
was
Rossi.
years before. That's what was really weird. The race, from what I understand, what happened, the race timer said, "Well, you can save money if we just time it here and here, and you can save this money for your charity." And they said, "Oh my God, well that's perfect."
Yeah, but do it again. They probably would.
Yeah, it didn't work out, and they don't do that anymore.
No, they added it back in. So basically, she was kind of stuck. There was no timing mat. The timing data wasn't there, I think. And that was kind of one of the cases. Well, okay, based on his race history, the fact that he would post every single training run he had with his Garmin data and all that stuff, and when he finished that race, I think he overshot and finished faster than he had intended. His head's down. He's avoiding the camera, and he's not a guy who avoided the camera up to that point. And then it kind of went on the message boards going crazy. But the one thing they did, people combed through every single race photo of every single runner, and he was the only one without a photo on the course as well. So all together,
right.
So it's like, so it's one of those, we all know, he got the course, he doesn't admit it, and then Barb, she was vilified by a lot for not disqualifying, and I still see tweets and messages, "Hey, disqualifying Mike Rossi." I'm like, it's been what good does it do at this point? I was beyond it pretty early when we all know he did, and that was kind of my springboard into why are we spending months and months, on him? Is there anybody else? Is he the only cheater? Is he the only one we have to worry about? And that's when I checked and found, no, there's a lot more. But she definitely kind of got piled on.
He brought the attention onto himself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
By being this all-American dad, taking my kids out of school and going to the Boston Marathon so they can grow up to be like me. And here the guy cheated to get in the Boston Marathon. That's brutal.
Yeah,
but yeah, people slam me and still slam me today. And I had nothing to do with the race. I don't know how people can say I have to DQ Mike Rossi when I have nothing. I have no role in that race. I have no power to anybody.
Yeah, so knowing what you know, if you were the race director of that race, would you have DQ'd him?
Well, if it was my race and not attached to a charity,
yeah. If you had the information with the information we had,
but you got to you got to look at where it was, and an organization has to say if they DQ anyone, they have to have proof.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of what gets
lawyers, and people just don't want to get in lawsuits over this stuff. It's just a waste of time and money.
Yeah, I hear that a lot about the lawsuits. But I have I hear that a lot about, worried about lawsuits. I hear that from Philadelphia. Like, we can't disqualify, the city could be sued. Are you aware of any runner that sued a marathon for disqualifying them?
No, but I know some runners that got DQ'd that they created a lot of hardship for races.
Sure.
They incurred a lot of costs that it's just crazy. The Lehigh Valley Via Marathon has such a great charity angle for the disabled citizens of the Lehigh Valley, and that's all I cared about. I didn't want money that was going to them be wasted. I wish a penny was never wasted on Mike Rossi.
Yeah, and I was not one to...
Disabilities are just trying to be... What the VIA people do is they take people who had Down syndrome and lived with their parents for all these years, and then they live in their 40s and 50s, and then their parents pass away, and these people have to then go on to a life. And VIA money helps those people, gets them in like an assisted living place, teaches them how to do a checkbook, and gets them a job bagging groceries, things like that. That's all I cared about.
Yeah.
And I don't know how people like Mike Rossi can sleep at night knowing that they wasted money that would have gone to people who really need money and need help. But that's the bottom line. I mean, the guy, it's just awful.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then what's the article? Even after years after that, it keeps on popping up. So, but yeah, it's definitely.
But he destroyed himself. He ended up getting arrested. He's done.
Yeah, he's not innocent by any means. And there were, and again, a lot of the reason it kind of kept going was a lot of people had personal gripes with him, and so there were non-runners on the Let's Run board, that were keeping that flame going well beyond. And I was never one. I don't think I ever was really big on. I never emailed Barb. I never said, "Hey, disqualify this guy." I wasn't on, quite on that. Again, at that point, I didn't think it mattered really, retroactively, all that much. So I wasn't on there. And actually, the following year, I had caught somebody, cutting the course at Lehigh. Emailed Barb, and she disqualified him, and no one knew who it was about it, and it was done. I didn't write an article. I probably did, but I don't think I called them out.
Well, I know they have cameras out there, and I know they have more chip mats timing mats out there, so I know they're on top of it these days.
Yeah, that's definitely my blind spot, is the smaller races where there's just none of that, where you see the one like, man, I know this isn't right. There was a race, again, same kind of thing. It's like, okay, I'm 99% sure this person cheated. I think I talked to like 6 out of the top 12 runners that said the female winner, they didn't see her going on out and back, that she cut the course. Couldn't prove it. And then the lead bicyclist said he did see her, and he was the only one, but it's like a family friend. So it's one of those I'm pretty sure, but but I just, and she's a very qualified. She could have legitimately won a race too. So it's like, well, why did nobody see her? And why are this many people saying that? This one is just kind of befuddling to me. But those those courses are those are the ones that's the definite blind spot and open for that kind of that kind of cheating and kind of getting around the system. And kind of worse. I don't know if I want Boston to put stricter standards besides just course length, but a lot of people have advocated for for that. Hey, how does Boston how's that a Boston qualifier? And it just has to be the course has to be measured accurately and run accurately, and it's a qualifier. So it's
right.
People don't.
Yeah, they created a lot of these fast courses these days. There's a whole series of the Revel runs. I mean, I know people, they do a typical marathon that I'm at, they run like 4:20, and then they go to Revel and run 3:45. I'm like, Wow.
What are your thoughts on? What are your thoughts on those?
I think Boston should actually select the races that are qualifying races, not just to be USATF certified. I think Boston should really work with specific amount of races, and those should be the ones that that are really qualified races that have been around a while, that set a standard. Because right now you just pick a course and certify it, and you're good to go.
But can I just say what the downside to that strategy is, and that this kind of happens in the ultra world with like Western states and things like that, is you enact that kind of a policy, and then the Golden Sunflower Marathon in San Antonio or whatever it is, no one wants to do it anymore, and that everybody's doing these ones that are qualifiers to the detriment of those, and then it kind of hurts those small marathons.
Absolutely.
So that creates this whole hierarchy of marathons. When you have certain ones that are qualifiers, that it's kind of a bummer for that guy who runs that marathon.
I totally agree, but it also, they don't have to be strict with the races they work with. They could work with a lot of races, but it would be nice that a race gets established and has a set course, and it could just be they earn their qualifications after 1 or 2 years. They put on a good race. BAA knows it's a legitimate, great course, and the race proved itself to be a great race, and then they get added to the list. But I agree with you. But I don't think any race would say would have any problem. Any race director would have problems with that. I get it with a race that's been around a long time, but I think a new race really should prove themselves that they are, a legit great race, and then get added to the list.
But like with the Revel, for example, kind of running down a mountain, and people say it's tough on your legs and whatnot. But when I first started doing my analysis on Boston, St. George was one. I would look for variances between a runner's finishing time at Boston and what they qualified at, and that's kind of my starting point. Say, okay, somebody qualified for Boston in 2:50 and they finished in 5:50. What happened? So I would get big variances with St. George all the time, because it's a huge, large amount of runners, and it's a very fast all downhill course. So then it's like, so there's definitely an advantage to doing those type courses is for a runner who's within 10, 15 minutes maybe of being able to do the time, and I think it's, hey, cut those races out, then hey, everybody gets in. So yeah.
I bet that old tricky. Las Vegas marathon was probably on that list too. When they
the old Las Vegas put on by Al Boca. Yeah,
it was like straight downhill.
Yeah, I was at that race a couple times, and I never did it back in the day, but it was really bust you out to the middle of nowhere and run right back to downtown Vegas.
Yeah, I did it.
California.
Fast times on that course.
I did,
especially when the wind was right. Yeah. In fact, I was just in South Carolina staying with my friend Bill Sears, and that's the first thing he said. He said, "Yeah, I was in like 309 shape, but ran Vegas, and we had that 40-mile-an-hour tailwind that I ran 256." I was like, I was like, "You're serious?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I knew I was in like 309, 308 shape, and I ran 256 because there was a 40-mile-an-hour tailwind."
And that race never got anywhere near Las Vegas itself either.
Yes, what I remember, I did run the half one year, and we were running the second part of the marathon course. And you're right, you see the strip, and right when you see the strip, you turn to the right, and then you head down this road, and all of a sudden you're in this park, and then you finish, and you never quite make it to Las Vegas. But Las Vegas looks like it's right there, but you're actually about 6 miles away.
Yeah, I did that race. Well, I did it, I think it was right after that course when it was, I think Divine ran it at the time for a few years, and I did it up to that, and then right before, there was kind of a year when it was in limbo before Rock and Roll actually took over, so those were the years where I ran Vegas, and I didn't mind that. We started up the strip, then you kind of went out in the middle of nowhere, and then you came along the back, and it was done in the morning, not like it is now, where that race is a mess. The course is a mess, at least, where they have the real, they can't keep the strip closed for that long, so there's a tight cutoff, and you get all kinds of cutting just to meet the cutoff. And it's so much. If you look at the course, it's like you can't follow it. It's like there's so many chances to do so, and it's just not well. I say the course. The timers are good. Sports Stats times it. They do wonderful.
Sure.
But it's just the course itself just makes it a challenge for them. I know.
It's a fantastic half marathon course, but the full, I think we got cut off in that course. We stopped for beer and tacos in the middle of it, so we kind of like brought it on ourselves. But it's like that. It's like a great half marathon with a really crappy out and back in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's that's fantastic. So really, that's Bart. I definitely appreciate it. Didn't want to talk to you quickly about how's your running going today? How's your health and
I'm hanging in there. I went through a lot of treatments this summer to try to get healthy. I did all these blood irradiation treatments that would wipe me out for a couple of days, but I'll get my treatment, and right when I get home from my treatment, I'd go for a 3-4 mile run because I knew I wouldn't be able to run for a couple of days because the things wiped me out so much. So I'd go out and get 3 or 4 miles in, and be sick for a couple of days. But I think that the whole process was to feel healthier in the end, and starting to feel a little bit better. So I got crazy and entered a 50K trail run in 5 or 6 weeks. So I got to get in some miles. My little 3-4 mile runs got to get a little bit longer.
You're on my training plan for I did. I could barely finish a marathon these days, and I got black flagged at Dayton. Although the next week I was doing the North Coast 24, so I wasn't trying to go fast. I was just getting miles in, and I did 74 miles, which for me was 10 years ago I did 60 subs, so I was happy with that. But then I did New York Marathon. I was well over 6 hours, so it's like and the training was. I mean, those miles are well more than I put in training, and I did Lazarus. I did Big Backyard Ultra, and I completed one loop officially of the 4.1667 miles. So.
Oh, cool.
But I got to be out. I just wanted to be there. I wanted to see Courtney.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be there and witness it, and I got to sit and watch a lot of it and hang out with Laz and his wife and
that's
Sandra.
awesome.
So I just enjoyed kind of being and the camaraderie there. I think it's maybe like kind of had again it's still a pretty small community. Everyone's approachable and super nice. So I find myself kind of more drawn towards the ultra community. Where else with
Sure.
I'm not gonna Meb's a wonderful seems like a super nice guy, but I'm not not gonna be running next to him or hanging out with him. But on the Loop Ultra, I'm I was running right with the leaders for the one lap. I was in it, and and the North Coast 24, you have a 1 mile loop. Doing it,
yes.
I'd be passed 100 times by the by the top runners or thereabouts. But
you're out there, man.
Yeah. So
but
definitely.
That's what I love about our sport. And the ultra, when you start doing the ultras, which my first ultra was 30 years ago. It is more of a tight knit family, and the road race community is just a large family. When you get into the ultras, even though the ultras these days are growing, it's still a pretty small percentage of runners, but it's a tight group. It's like family. But I'll tell you, the stuff you're doing, Derek, is just awesome. I mean, I really appreciate that you're keeping things legit and catching people that are flat out cheating. And I guarantee you, they will get out of our sport because there's no reason to be here once they realize that if they do this stuff, they're going to get caught. They are going to go somewhere else, do some other sport, and who knows what that is, and we're not going to worry about it, but they're out of running.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate it. Well,
I will say this, 99.9% of the people that are in our sport are in it for the right reasons and do it the right way.
Yeah, you're right, and that's kind of a struggle I have. People, hey, why don't you talk more, write more about the positive, and I try to do that. And kind of on the podcast, I kind of try to sandwich, hey, let's talk about the positive stuff. Okay, hey, now we'll get into the cheating. But I'm writing about the cheaters, and people say, why are you focusing on the negative? The reason is to try to, people who deserve the accolades, to get the positive onto them. So even though I'm kind of looking at it from the flip side, the goal is the same way to prop up. So, and it's more public. People think it's increasing. I don't think it's increasing from where it was when I started necessarily. It's just we know people are looking for it, and the point is let's keep these people out of it who are really cheating. The ultra runner Kelly Agnew, who won maybe it was 20 races or so that he won, that he got disqualified from after I wrote my article, and he's not running anymore.
I know Kelly. He used to do races where I live in Pennsylvania, and I know the guy.
Wow.
And his wife, and I remember someone saying to me, like, how does he win these races? Like, I beat him in half marathons by like 15 minutes. And, at that point, I knew the guy. I never thought he would cheat. So I never really thought about it. I would just say, well, maybe he's really good at this trail stuff, or I'm not really sure.
Bart, they were lovely people.
What's that, Scott?
I mean, they were really nice. They were a nice couple.
Yeah, Joe and Kelly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I used to see them quite often. They moved to Utah. They used to live in Pennsylvania, and I see them at a lot of races. I haven't seen them lately. But you're right. I mean, there are out there. If they get caught and it's blatant and there's proof, I guarantee you they're not gonna say, oh, yeah, I won't cheat anymore. I guarantee you they're gonna walk away from the sport.
Yeah, and they've been. I mean, Kelly was disqualified from one or two races before that, but it wasn't. But he kept doing it. It wasn't. Some people it might have been whispers, and some people had no clue. And that was really the first ultra article I wrote, and I got kind of the same backlash I initially got with marathons. Like, hey, who cares and all that stuff. But when he won, that's what's befuddling to me. On like these, it's the fixed time loop races. You're running next to the people that you're cheating out of something, and you're seeing them multiple times. You know these people. It's tangible what you're taking from them. Someone cheating for Boston. It's kind of like you don't know who you're cheating out of the spot. It's bad. It's the
you're
same
taking
thing.
Somebody's spot that's legit.
Yeah,
and that's wrong.
So I can't even kind of wrap my head around the motivation there.
Yeah. And then there's the whole drug side of it, which a lot of people think is only at the elite level, but I also think it's at pretty high age group levels, and I know for sure in the triathlon world.
Oh, yeah, and I get stuff on that, but it's like, I can't look at splits and tell if somebody's drug cheating, so I just...
Yeah,
I just stay away. I'm not having somebody pee in a cup for me, so I can't. Right. I'm not going to accuse. I'm not. Let's run. I can't accuse people. Everybody of drug cheating. If you see an increase and stuff, you might be suspicious. But yeah, I just.
But
can't
it's
do that.
still one of those things that it's just blatant cheating, and the worst part is you deprive someone who actually is legit and earned that place and prize and time, and they don't get it. It's unfortunate.
Okay, well, Bart Yasso, thank you. Anything you're doing these days and books you want to sell?
I'm just, I'm enjoying retirement. Spend a little bit of time on the golf course, a little bit of time running, and a little bit of time working. I do work a little bit, do some freelance, but I really am retired from Runner's World and enjoying it. So it's been a fun gig. But the running community I'm still connected with, and I'll do the best I can to.
Yeah, maybe as I do more races, we'll cross paths sometime and get to shake your hand and say hello.
That would be awesome.
All right, Bart Yasso, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
All right, Derek.
Great talking to you.
Thank you, and thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Bart. Nice to meet you. And I definitely want to hit you up to do a long form podcast.
All right, I got to get Salazar to sleep at your guest room.
Yeah, and I want to interview you. I think that getting your full story out would be really great.
All right,
my podcast does like long form personal interviews about what the lives of people that are involved in the sport, and I think that yours is a really good.
All right, that's a deal. We'll work it out.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Take care.
All right. Well, if you want to support the show and help us get some more interviews with some exciting people, you can support us on Patreon. Go out to patreon.com, search for Marathon Investigation. There's different levels, different tiers, different rewards. And if you are inclined, put a little money in there. That would be great. You can give as little as $1 a month. And it helps out the show. And, just think of it as buying us a cup of coffee or, paying a little bit of a contribution to help keep this going. If you're listening to every show, you're spending hours and hours with us. What else could you do for $1 a month and get hours and hours of this kind of entertainment? If you want to learn more about me, you can go to www.10junkmiles.com. I have a podcast that has group podcasts as well as one-on-one interviews, and it's everyday runners podcasting about their everyday running. And you can also find me on @ScottyCoomer on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram. Derek, where should people go if they want to find you?
Mostly go to Facebook, search Marathon Investigation. We have both a group page where there's a little more discussion. People can share more articles, and then also have my Marathon Investigation company page as well. So go there. On Twitter, the best way, I need to find a new handle. That's too many. I can't get enough letters for Marathon Investigation on there. So just search Derek Murphy, and you'll see my beautiful mug on there with Marathon Investigator, missing a few vowels in there, and just click on follow. And eventually I'll get the Instagram up and running a little bit better, but definitely hit me up there and marathoninvestigation.com.
Thank you for listening to the Marathon Investigation Podcast. Have a questionable result to report? Visit marathoninvestigation.com to contact us or email Derek at results@marathoninvestigation.com.
Another case closed for the Marathon's silent guardian.